a shit ton of ISIS members. The ISIS members returned from the war to Sweden, and the politicians promised that they would do something, but they did nothing. More than 100 ISIS terrorists came back here, and they just went back into work and without any penalties. And they just went back to their civilian lives, and because they committed no crime in Sweden, they were basically allowed to do so. And you have ISIS doctors. You have ISIS doctor in the socialist welfare. I mean, just the healthcare system is basically it is basically just political machinery. So they just hire Muslims. They hire Muslims and they hire ISIS Muslims. They love ISIS doctors. They love ISIS teachers. You can have an ISIS teacher teaching your children because of socialism. Because it is true. Socialism love Islam, and here's the thing: most of these ISIS people, ISIS in Sweden, they are very socialist. They're both religious and they're socialist at the same time. So they have socialist protection, and the social democrats are never going to attack them. As long as they play up this double card that they are religious but also socialist, they're always going to be defended. But it's
Back
very.
in 30 seconds, getting some water. Give me just a second. We're still recording though, so give me just a second. Be right back. 30 seconds.
Um, I would like to add that whenever a Muslim migrant is becoming right wing, if a Muslim gets a highest social status in Sweden, basically then he is always betrayed. He's basically betrayed or sold out, and it's very clear that Muslims are tolerated and they are admired. They are allowed to rape and kill as long as they remain poor.
Right.
As long as I would like to describe it like this. If the Swedish Muslims are assimilated for real, um, they are betrayed. They are betrayed by the politicians, and they are betrayed by the left and the parties. Muslims are allowed to murder white girls and rape them. They are allowed to do all manner of horrible shit according to the left, but only as long as they remain poor and submissive. They're supposed to live in ghettos. They're supposed to be a workforce. And the Swedish businessman wants them for cheap labor. And the Swedish labor unions want Muslims because they want more members in the labor unions. And so on. And the social democrats wants to build um, a half quasi socialistic paradise with Muslims. It's very simple. They see Muslims as pawns. Pawns are not meant to assimilate. Muslims are not meant to assimilate. Muslims are not supposed to be businessmen, to be middle class. They're not supposed to have a high standard. They're not supposed to be that polite, well-adjusted neighbors. As long as they manage to do that. If they manage to do that, they are betrayed. The plan is that Muslims are going to take welfare checks. Muslims are supposed to live on the state. They are supposed to work with whatever the left tells them to work with, meaning that they should only work in the public sector. Muslims should work in the public sector, not in the private sector. If they don't, they should they should get tax handouts. And Muslims should be completely dependent on free school and educations. And Muslims should go into the public school and educate themselves, not because they should be assimilated, because they want work. They want more students in the schools. Do you understand? They want people in the schools. So they want to fill the schools with people. They want more people in the schools, in the education programs. They just want people there. Why? So that they can demand higher taxes from these institutions. Because the purpose of the schools is only to employ teachers, is to employ teachers to take money, to suck out money and then inject it back into the system. It's not about teaching the Muslims something. It's just about having Muslims that you continuously can have a revolving door. And same thing with the welfare system. And then what should people work with? What should Muslims work with? They should only work with public sector. Everyone should work in the public sector ideally, and the people who work in the private sector should be um, just cows that you bleed on. They pay taxes, and the rest should work in public hospitals, public institutions, public schools, and so on. And doing what? Well, educating more people, migrants that you bring in. So it's not to do something, and for this reason, Muslims are supposed to be poor, submissive. And that is why they love them. They love them as long as they are a social problem. They are supposed to be a social problem because they want a social problem. Because without Muslims and blacks and South Americans, there would be no welfare state left. There would be no private. Sorry, there would be no public sector left in Sweden because they wouldn't have anything to do. Because here's the thing: the white native Swedes are so educated and so competent that there wouldn't be any. The Swedish people have had free education and all the free hospitals for so long that they are so wealthy and so competent, so they can take care of themselves. They don't need more handouts. Basically, the more you help a people with free stuff, the more stronger they become, and the less they need the welfare state. The more you educate people, the less you need to educate people. Because when you educate people, they can get a job. And if they can get a job, they can pay for the education of the children. And therefore, the Swedish so-called socialism is not socialism at all. It's state capitalism. And Swedish state capitalism is basically about, right now, it's about making people poorer. They want people poorer. They don't want you rich. They want you poor. They don't want you middle class. Because the welfare state made the white working class a middle class, and it's just retarded, spoiled left. Okay, left are spoiled and retarded, and they just complain, "Oh, we're not evil," and they are very indoctrinated and they're very loyal. But there is there's no more working class because people are educated. They don't need anything really. Swedish people don't really need much. They could work with anything if the public sector was just cut back. Okay, the social reforms were useful when the Swedish poor were. We really had a lot of social injustices, but when social social schools, also free education, free universities, it is going to turn the working class into a middle class. And when they become a middle class, they're going to ask for more capitalist stuff.
One
They
problem with
want.
this is, are they actively promoting cultural Marxist indoctrination at these institutions?
Yes, they do, but it's okay. The reason they do this in Sweden is basically that the Swedish politicians went to America and went to schools and universities and courses, and they studied socialism in America, and the new socialism is all these cultural nonsense, and then they went back to Sweden and they implemented it here. And educators and feminists, they have been to America. They went to America and they imitate all this anti-racism stuff. They learned all these idiotic multiculturalist theories, postmodernism in America, and then when they come back to Sweden, they decide, oh well, Sweden is too white. Okay, if there's no minorities, if there's no blacks and no Muslims, well then we can't complain about race. So we import black people and other better race, so we can complain about race and use. But it's a substitute. Okay, I am saying that real socialism is dead. There's no need for it because the white people are so educated and so strong that they don't need this shit. The white population, what they want is bigger. They wanted TVs. They wanted nice TVs. They wanted internet, computers, cars, and shit. They wanted a villa, a house, and a wife and 2.5 children. That was what they wanted. They wanted to work and wanted to pay for it, and they wanted to work with whatever they liked to, and didn't want to work with what the state or the labor unions told them. They wanted to find work or create work on their own, and they wanted to experiment and do shit. And what? And okay, I'm trying to explain how state-funded, tax-paid, tax-financed education and healthcare, it creates more capitalism because when people have all that, when the Swedish white poverty is practically exterminated, then people don't want more equality. People don't want to pay more taxes if people are already equal. If people are more socially equal. If the majority of the population are confident and well educated, then they start to vote for less taxes and they want more capitalist stuff. And the Swedish people also started to care more about religion again. They started to care more about religion. They started to marry. In the 80s and 70s, Swedish people started to marry and they wanted to marry and so on. So it was a return because the population were wealthy, and that what do you do with your wealth? You don't want even more equality. And the social democrats, they wanted us to push for to become good communists. Their idea was that if we bring up the Swedish poor, they are going to be communist. But instead, if you help the Swedish poor, if you help the working class, you are creating a new bourgeoisie, a new middle class that wants what they want culture. They want in stuff that is unequal. They don't want to be dirty workers forever. They don't want food for they don't want the fucking basics. They don't want basic superficial materialism. They want more. And that is why multiculturalism came to Sweden. Multiculturalism came to Sweden because it was a substitute. They realized that you cannot bribe this whole bread and circuses. You can't bribe the Swedish population with tax incentives. You cannot have high taxes and give the taxes back to the Swedish population to keep them loyal, to control them. So they needed the other shit like in the environment. So the Swedish left. They started to talk about feminism instead. It was about anti-family values. Also, Swedish feminism is just communism. It's just communism. They realized that they cannot liberate workers. They cannot liberate the poor. They cannot make the poor equal. But what they can do is give all the power to women. And environmentalism is also just like a form of socialism. It's about they are not helping human beings. They realized long ago that socialism cannot help human beings. Socialism makes people poor. Socialism is not scientific. Socialism uh, is just so what they want is Islam. They they want Islam, the environment, and they want a society where women have all the money and all, women work and men are forced to be homosexual and stay at home, and a small elite of really sexist men sit in government, so that the majority of the positions in women sorry, the majority of positions of the upper class and upper middle class, they are all women, and women are easily controlled by a small group of sexist socialists, and these socialists are also racists and everything, but they love Muslims because they want to control Muslims because they want Islam as socialism because they don't believe in this secular scientific socialism anymore. They know it's not good for science. It's no they know it's not rational. They know they're not actually making poor people more equal. So on. They realize it's only about control. And that is why they love Islam because they need a new way to do socialism. And with socialism, I mean that they realize that socialism is not about equality. Socialism is just about control. It's about controlling the economy. That is what they want. They want people to okay, don't work for yourself. Don't work for your materialism. Okay, consume less, have less stuff. You shouldn't have internet. You don't need internet. You don't need food. You don't you don't you should eat insects. You should eat insects and be vegan and eat whatever the state tells you to. You should eat recycled food. Live like a sardine in an cheap government building and basically be a cattle in the machine and you should just be fine with everything and a small politically powerful elite should live in amazing luxuries and everyone else would be slaves on these ecological farms basically. So yes, and that's why they love Muslims essentially.
Their interests overlap. Also, the means of executing via
It's
authoritarian
control.
regime.
Okay, essentially the socialist Christians. There's a huge group of the socialistic Christians. Here's the thing: uh, many socialists in Sweden basically they turn Christian, religious, because they realized that socialism is not rational, so they combine it with Christianity and so on. Then they realized, oh, Christianity is dead because people don't want Christianity anymore, so they switched to Islam. So essentially, the Swedish state church is it's Muslim. It is Muslim in practice. There's this old group, which the Social Democratic Brotherhood for Faith and Solidarity, also called like the Christian Brotherhood for short. They're basically like the Islamic Brotherhood, like the Islamic Socialists. Their reasoning is this: they want to use socialism to force religion on people, and they want to convert to Islam because that way they can get more religious people. And they are basically again they are against. They don't want people to okay. They are against individualism. They're against thinking for yourself. They're against rationality, and they're against self-interest. You shouldn't work for money. You should work for God and morality and so on. And it's all about the weak, and it's about the weak and the fear and the disgusting incident. All religion is essentially the same as socialism. Religion is just about the weak, the ugly. It's about religion is for people without any real social skills and without any real social connections. So they create religion to keep to, to keep together to overthrow the beautiful and the intelligent. It's all about
I
that.
think that religion also kills agency to an extent. Ascribing the actions of the world and your reactions to them to a deity instead of taking responsibility for them.
Yeah, well, either that or you have this mentality that you exist inside God's mind all the time. and that God is always watching, or so. So you have it's kind of like split personality. But here's the thing: there's a difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is an organized set. It's a set of fucking rules. It's a set of rules. It is when God has a philosophy. It's a philosophy that you says that God has. And the thing with Islam is that Islam is an extremely collectivist religion.